The research station on Velcor 7 hummed with its usual nocturnal rhythm when Mira first noticed the weight shifting at the foot of her bed. As the sole human xenobiologist stationed among the Velcarian Predator Rehabilitation Center, she'd grown accustomed to unusual sounds in the night, the chittering of nocturnal scavengers, the distant roars of adult Velcarians on patrol, the whisper of wind through the compound's biodomes. But this was different. Something small and warm pressed against her ankle through the thermal quilt. Mira remained perfectly still, her breathing steady and measured. The Velcarians, apex predators of their homeworld, were magnificent creatures, standing nearly 3 meters tall with obsidian scales that shimmered like oil slicks, and eyes that could see across multiple spectrums. The Galactic Council had deemed them too dangerous for standard integration protocols. Most species gave Velcarians a wide berth, their instincts screaming danger at the sight of those razor-sharp claws and rows of crystalline teeth. Most species, but not humans. Another shift. Then another. Mira suppressed a smile as she felt multiple small bodies wriggling beneath her covers, seeking warmth and, she suspected, refuge from the night training exercises the adult Velcarians conducted. The cubs were supposed to participate, learning to hunt and stalk in the darkness. Apparently some had other ideas. Through half-closed eyes, she watched as a small snout poked out near her pillow. Even in the dim bioluminescence of her quarters, she recognized Kor, the boldest of the recent clutch, barely 3 months old but already showing the cunning that made his species such effective hunters. His scales were still soft, more charcoal gray than true black, and his eyes held an intelligence that startled most researchers. "I can see you, little one," Mira whispered in perfect Velcarian, the growling consonants rumbling in her throat. Kor froze, his small body going rigid. For a moment, Mira thought he might bolt. Then slowly, defiantly, he crawled further up the quilt until his head rested near her shoulder. A moment later, 2 more cubs emerged, Kor's clutchmates emboldened by his bravery. The Galactic Council would have been horrified. Protocol dictated maintaining strict boundaries with predator species, especially juveniles. Let them imprint on you, and you risk creating dependence. Worse, you risk the moment when instinct overrides conditioning, and those playful nips become fatal strikes. But Mira had read humanity's own history. She'd studied how her ancestors had looked at wolves, creatures that could tear them apart, and seen not just danger but possibility. How they'd taken infant predators into their caves and created companions that would follow humans across millennia and stars. "Hiding from combat training?" she asked, reaching up slowly to scratch behind Kor's auditory ridge. The cub made a sound somewhere between a purr and a growl, contentment mixed with embarrassment. The other cubs burrowed deeper into the quilt, their small claws pricking through the fabric but never quite breaking skin. They'd learned that lesson in their first week. Hurt the human, even accidentally, and she'd make that disappointed face that somehow felt worse than any adult's roar. "The others say you're mad," came a voice from the doorway. Mira didn't need to look to know it was Shektar, the rehabilitation center's director and Kor's own father. The massive Velcarian filled the entrance, his presence triggering every prey species instinct humanity had evolved over millions of years. Mira felt those instincts, the spike of adrenaline, the urge to flee. And as she always did, she acknowledged them and set them aside. Fear was useful. Terror was not. The others said humans were prey. Mira replied calmly, still stroking Kor's scales. "They said we'd last maybe a week before our soft bodies and blunt teeth proved our weakness." Shektar's mandibles clicked in what Mira had learned was Velcarian amusement. "That was 2 cycles ago. You're still here." "I'm still here," she agreed. "And your cubs are still in my bed." The director moved into the room with surprising grace for such a large creature. In the wild, adult Velcarians would have driven off or killed cubs that showed weakness, refused training, sought comfort over combat readiness. But these weren't wild Velcarians. They were part of the integration program, learning to coexist with the broader galactic community. Learning, Mira thought. That strength came in many forms. The council representative filed another complaint, Shektar said, settling his bulk near the bed. "Says you're compromising the cubs' development, making them soft. And what do you think?" The Velcarian regarded her with those multifaceted eyes, seeing her in wavelengths she couldn't imagine. "I think," he said slowly, that Core scored highest in yesterday's problem-solving assessment, that his clutch mates show remarkable cooperative behavior, unusual for our species at this age, that they're learning empathy without losing their edge. Core chose that moment to yawn, displaying rows of needle-sharp teeth inches from Mira's face. She didn't flinch. Instead, she booped his snout with one finger. Bad manners, she chided gently. We don't yawn in people's faces. The cub's eyes widened, the Valkyrian equivalent of embarrassment, and he tucked his head under her chin. Shektar's mandibles clicked again, more pronounced this time. Your species confuses me, Mira. You're built like prey. You bruise easily. Your senses are limited. You lack natural weapons. By all logic, you should fear us, should demand barriers and protocols between you and my cubs. But, Mira prompted, but you see my children trying to hide from their responsibilities, and instead of reporting them or sending them away, you let them burrow into your nest. You offer comfort when you should enforce discipline. You treat apex predators like, he paused, searching for the word, like children, Mira suggested. Because that's what they are, Director. Yes, they're predators. Yes, they'll grow up to be dangerous. But right now they're scared cubs who need to know that being strong doesn't mean never being afraid, that asking for help isn't weakness. She felt the cubs relax further into sleep, their small bodies warm against her. Humans learned a long time ago that the scariest predator on our world, the one with the sharpest teeth and strongest jaws, made the best friend. We didn't tame wolves by making them weak. We partnered with them. We respected their nature while showing them ours. Shektar was quiet for a long moment. The council won't understand. The council doesn't have to, Mira said. Not yet. But they will. When Core and his clutchmates graduate, when they become the first Valkyrians to fully integrate into galactic society, when they show that predators can be protectors, hunters can be guardians, then the council will understand what humans have always known. And what is that? Mira smiled, running her hand gently over Core's sleeping form. That the strongest bonds are forged not in spite of our differences but because of them. That mercy is not weakness. That the hand that can kill but chooses to comfort, that's the hand that changes worlds. As if in agreement, Core purred in his sleep, his small claws kneading her quilt like an earth cat. Shektar rose to leave, pausing at the doorway. Keep them until morning training, he said quietly, but make them run extra laps for skipping tonight. Deal, Mira whispered. When the director was gone, she nestled deeper into her bed, 3 Valkyrian cubs tucked around her like living furnaces. Tomorrow they'd run those laps. They'd practice their stalking and their strikes. They'd learn to be the predators they were born to be. But tonight they were just children, and she was just a human who refused to let fear define her choices. In the darkness, Core stirred, his eyes opening briefly to meet hers. In that gaze, Mira saw the future. Not of humans conquering the stars alone, but of unlikely partnerships, of bridges built between species that should have been enemies. She saw hope, and she smiled.